Kicked out at 18. My sister and I bought a $5 rusted Quonset. No one expected this. The wind cut across the parking lot like a knife dragging a thin plastic bag in circles around the cracked asphalt. Under a buzzing street light, two small duffel bags sat on the ground like they had been dropped and forgotten. But they were not forgotten. They were all that Ethan and Lily had left. Ethan stood with his shoulders tight, one hand gripping the strap of his bag so hard his knuckles looked white. Lily sat on the curb with her knees pulled to her chest. Her hair kept blowing into her face, and every time she pushed it back, her fingers shook. Behind them, the last lights of their old house were gone. The porch light that used to make the driveway feel safe had turned off like someone had erased it. Ethan glanced at the time on his phone for the fifth time in 1 minute. His screen had a long crack down the middle, but he could still read the numbers. Lily whispered, "He really did it." Ethan did not answer right away. His throat felt thick. He had tried to speak earlier when the front door had shut, when the lock had clicked, when their father's voice had come through the wood like a final verdict. "You're 18, their father had said. "You want to act grown, then be grown. Don't come back." Lily had stepped forward, her face pale. "Dad, please, we can talk." The door had opened just a little enough for their father's eyes to appear in the gap. His eyes were flat and tired, like he had practiced being cold. "I said no." He looked at Ethan. "You dragged her into your attitude. Now you can drag her into your consequences." Ethan had wanted to yell back. He had wanted to tell him he was wrong, that Lily was not some object, that she had a voice, that Ethan had never asked her to follow him. But his voice had failed. Anger could not cover the fear that hit him the moment he realized their father meant it. Then their stepmother's voice had floated from inside the house, softer but sharper. "Don't let them manipulate you. If they stay one more night, they'll never leave." Ethan remembered Lily's small breath, the way her hand had found his sleeve and held on. The door had closed. The lock had turned, and the house that had been their whole world had become a wall. Now, under the streetlight, Lily stared across the lot at a closed grocery store. The glass doors reflected her face in a weak, stretched shape. "What do we do?" she asked. Ethan swallowed. He wanted to say, "I've got it." He wanted to say, "Don't worry." But the truth was, he did not have it. He was 18. He had a part-time job at a tire shop. He had less than $300 in his bank account. He had a little sister who had always been the soft part of him. He forced air into his lungs. We find a place for tonight." Lily's eyes moved to him slowly, where Ethan looked around as if the answer might be painted on the pavement. Cars passed on the road nearby, their headlights sliding across Ethan's face like quick flashes of judgment. People were going home. People were warm. Ethan's phone buzzed. A message from his friend Trevor. "You good, heard you got kicked." Ethan stared at the text. His thumb hovered, then lowered. He did not want to type the words. He did not want anyone to know. If people knew, they would look at them like broken things, like trash left out. Lily watched him. "Who is it? Just someone," Ethan said. She nodded, but her eyes dropped. Ethan could tell what she was thinking, because he was thinking it too. No one was coming. Lily's voice got smaller. "Maybe we should go back. Knock again." Ethan felt heat rise in his chest. He pictured their father's face in the door gap. He pictured the stepmother's voice saying, "Manipulate," like Lily was some stranger trying to steal something. Ethan's jaw tightened. "No," he said, and the word came out harder than he meant. Lily flinched. Ethan's voice softened fast. I'm not mad at you. I can't let him do that to us again." Lily's eyes shone, and she blinked fast. "I didn't mean I'm sorry." "You don't have to be sorry," Ethan said. He crouched in front of her so his face was level with hers. "Listen to me. We're together." "Okay, no matter what happens, we're together." Lily pressed her lips together, trying not to cry. "Promise?" Ethan did not hesitate. "Promise." A long silence sat between them. The wind kept moving, cold and careless. Ethan stood up and looked toward the edge of the lot, where a row of short bushes separated the parking area from the road. Beyond that was a small strip of grass, and then an empty field. In the distance, he could see the glowing sign of a 24-hour diner. He had $14 in his wallet, maybe enough for 2 coffees and a tip if he felt brave. But coffee did not buy a bed. Coffee did not buy safety. Coffee did not fix the fact that they were suddenly homeless at 18. He turned back to Lily. "Can you walk?" She nodded, wiping her cheeks quickly, embarrassed at the tears. Ethan grabbed both duffel bags and slung one over each shoulder. The weight pulled him down, but he did not complain. If he could carry the bags, Lily could carry herself. They started walking toward the diner, their footsteps dull on the sidewalk. The town looked different at night. The streets felt wider, the houses more distant, like the world had decided to step back from them. As they passed a bus stop, Lily slowed. She stared at the bench. Ethan stopped beside her. What Lily's voice was barely audible. "We could sit there." "For what?" "For the night," Lily said, eyes fixed on the bench. "If we have to." Ethan felt a cold wave wash through him. The idea of Lily sleeping on a bench made his stomach twist. He pictured her curled up shivering while strangers walked by. He pictured someone being cruel, someone taking advantage. "No," he said quickly, "not happening." But Ethan shook his head. "I'll figure something out." Lily looked up at him, and for a moment she looked younger than 18. She looked like the kid who used to follow him around the house, asking him to play, asking him to help with homework. Ethan's chest hurt. They reached the diner. The windows glowed yellow, and inside a few people sat hunched over plates and coffee cups. The smell of fried food and warmth hit them when Ethan opened the door, and Lily let out a tiny, helpless sound like relief. A waitress behind the counter glanced up. She was older with tired eyes and hair pulled back in a quick ponytail. Her gaze moved from their bags to their faces. Something in her expression shifted like she understood more than she wanted to. Ethan forced his voice steady. "Hi, can we sit?" The waitress nodded slowly. "Sure, anywhere." They chose a booth in the corner. Ethan set the duffel bags on the seat beside him like a barrier. Lily slid into the booth across from him, her hands wrapped around herself. The waitress brought 2 menus and looked at them again. "You kids okay?" Ethan opened his mouth, then closed it. His pride rose like a shield. But Lily's eyes were glossy, and the shield felt heavy and useless. Ethan swallowed. "We just need a little time." The waitress's lips pressed into a line. "Coffee's cheap," she said, and walked away. Lily stared at the menu without reading it. After a moment, she whispered, "Ethan, what if we can't do this?" Ethan looked at her. Really looked. Her face was pale, her chin slightly trembling. She was trying so hard to be brave, and it was breaking her. Ethan leaned forward, lowering his voice. "Do you think I wanted this?" Lily's eyes widened. He shook his head. "No, but it happened. And I'm not letting you fall. Do you hear me? I don't care if I have to work 2 jobs. I don't care if I sleep standing up. You're not going back in there to beg." Lily's lips parted. Tears slid down her cheeks again, slow this time. "I don't want to be a burden." Ethan's chest tightened. "You're not a burden. You're my sister." For a moment, the diner noise faded. It was just them, a brother and sister in a corner booth, holding on to each other with words because they had nothing else. The waitress returned with 2 mugs of coffee. She set them down, and then in a quieter voice asked, "Where are you staying tonight?" Ethan froze. Lily's eyes darted to him, then down. Ethan forced a small smile that felt like a lie. "We're figuring it out." The waitress stared at him for a few seconds, then nodded like she had heard that answer before. "This town has a shelter on Maple," she said. "Not perfect, but it's indoors. They'll take you." "You got IDs?" Ethan nodded quickly. "Yeah." The waitress hesitated, then slid 2 small packets of sugar closer to them. "Drink your coffee, warm up, then go." Ethan managed a quiet, "Thank you." After she left, Lily wrapped her hands around the mug. The steam fogged her face for a second. Her eyes closed as she inhaled the warmth. Ethan stared into his own cup, his reflection broken on the surface. He thought about shelters, about lines, about other people's pain. He thought about their father sleeping in a bed tonight, believing he had won some kind of war. He thought about Lily waking up scared and pretending she wasn't. Outside, a car honked. Someone laughed on the sidewalk. Life kept going. Ethan's phone buzzed again. Another message this time from an unknown number. "If you want to be adults, be adults. Don't call here." Ethan felt his stomach drop. Their father. He had texted to make sure they understood the door was closed. Lily noticed Ethan's face. "What is it?" Ethan stared at the message until the words blurred. Then he locked the screen and slid the phone into his pocket like it was poison. He looked at Lily and forced calm into his voice. Nothing. But Lily watched him and she knew. She always knew. Her voice came out shaky. "Ethan, where do we go after the shelter? We can't stay there forever." Ethan opened his mouth to answer, but no plan came. Only fear. He looked around the diner at strangers who did not know them. People with coats, with jobs, with homes. People who would never imagine two 18-year-olds could be thrown away like trash. Ethan took a slow breath and made a decision in the only way he could, by refusing to break in front of Lily. "We go forward," he said softly. "We find work. We save. We find something that's ours." Lily stared at him like she wanted to believe him, but the future felt like a dark road with no streetlights. Ethan reached across the table and took her hand. His palm was rough from work. Hers was cold. "Do you trust me?" he asked. Lily's throat moved as she swallowed. "Yes." Ethan nodded once, but inside his thoughts raced, because he did not know where forward was. He only knew that if he stopped, if he admitted how scared he was, Lily might collapse too. And if Lily collapsed, he would not survive it. Outside, the wind hit the diner windows again harder this time, and the glass rattled like a warning. And as Ethan sat there holding his sister's hand, he realized something that made his chest tighten with panic. They had nowhere to go tomorrow. The shelter on Maple Street smelled like disinfectant and old blankets. The building was low and square, with a faded sign out front that looked like it had been sunburned for years. A security light over the entrance flickered, making the shadows jump. Ethan kept his hand on Lily's shoulder as they walked inside. He tried to move like someone who belonged there, like someone who was not afraid, but his heart beat hard in his chest. A woman behind a small desk looked up. She had gray hair pulled into a bun and reading glasses hanging from a chain. Her eyes moved from Ethan's face to Lily's, then down to their bags. "Names?" she asked. "Ethan Walker." "Lily Walker." Ethan said. "How old?" 18. Ethan answered. The woman paused and something softened in her expression just for a second. Both Ethan nodded. She sighed like she had heard the same story too many times. "IDS." They handed them over. The woman typed slowly, her nails tapping on the keyboard. "Any drugs?" she asked. "No," Ethan said fast. "Any drinking problems?" "No." "Any medical issues?" Lily hesitated. Ethan felt her stiffen. Ethan glanced at her. "You okay?" Lily swallowed. "Just anxiety. Sometimes." The woman nodded without judgment. "That's most of us. Beds are in separate wings. Men on the left, women on the right." Lily's fingers tightened around her bag strap. Separate. Ethan felt the words hit him like a punch. He had known it might be like this, but hearing it made it real. The woman looked between them. "Rules," she said simply. "Curfew at 9. Lights out at 10. No fighting. No stealing. You follow the rules, you can stay for now." Lily's eyes filled, but Ethan cut in gently. "Okay, we understand." The woman slid their IDs back and pointed. "You can talk in the common room until curfew. After that, you go to your wing. Breakfast at 6, out by 8. Ethan thanked her. His voice sounded calmer than he felt. They walked into the common room where a TV played softly with captions on. A few people sat on chairs with their heads down. Someone coughed in a corner. A man with a red face stared at the wall like he was watching something no one else could see. Lily sat on the edge of a couch, gripping her bag like it might disappear. Ethan sat beside her. Neither of them spoke for a long time. Finally, Lily whispered, "I don't want to sleep without you." Ethan stared at the floor. He did not want to either. The idea of leaving her alone behind a door in a building full of strangers made his skin crawl. He leaned closer. "I'll be right across the hall," he lied, even though he didn't know if that was true. "You'll be safe." Lily shook her head, her eyes shiny. "You don't know that." Ethan's jaw clenched. She was right. He didn't know anything anymore. He forced himself to breathe and looked at her. "Listen, we do this one night, then we make a plan." Lily's voice trembled. "What plan?" Ethan hesitated. "Work, money, a room, something small." Lily let out a weak, humorless laugh. "With what money you make, what?" $12 an hour. Ethan flinched because she was not trying to hurt him. She was just afraid. He nodded slowly. "Yeah." Lily rubbed her forehead like she was trying to push the fear out. "We're not even allowed to stay here in the daytime." Ethan stared at the TV screen, not really seeing it. He felt a cold rage inside him, aimed at their father, at the house, at the world that could do this to kids and then act like it was normal. Then curfew came. A staff member clapped her hands once. "Okay, everyone. Time." Lily stood slowly. Her shoulders looked small. Ethan wanted to wrap her in his arms and refused to let go. They stopped in the hallway where the wings split. Lily looked up at him with panic in her eyes. Ethan stepped forward and hugged her. It was tight, almost desperate. Lily clung back like she was drowning, and he was the only thing that kept her above water. "I'll see you in the morning," Ethan said into her hair. Lily whispered, "Promise, promise." Ethan said again, and this time the word felt like a responsibility, heavier than any bag. He watched her walk down the women's hallway, then disappear through a door. Only then did Ethan let himself exhale. That first night, Ethan slept with one eye open. The mattress was thin and the room was crowded. Men shifted in their beds. Someone muttered in their sleep. A door creaked. A distant shout made Ethan sit up, his muscles ready to fight his mind flashing to Lily. He did not truly sleep. He survived the hours until morning. At 6, a bell rang. People lined up for breakfast. Ethan got a tray with watery eggs and toast that felt like cardboard. He carried it to a table in the common room and waited. When Lily entered, Ethan's chest loosened like a knot being untied. She looked exhausted. Her hair was messy, her eyes swollen from crying, but she was there. Ethan stood and pulled out a chair. "Sit." Lily sat and stared at the eggs like they were an insult. Ethan lowered his voice. "You okay?" Lily nodded, but it was not convincing. "I didn't sleep." Ethan tried to smile. "Me neither." Lily's lips twitched almost a smile, then fell again. "What if this is our life now?" Ethan felt her words cut through him. He did not answer right away because the truth was too close. Instead, he said, "It won't be." Lily's eyes searched his face. "How do you know?" Ethan swallowed. "Because we're not giving up." After breakfast, they were pushed out at 8 like the woman had said. The morning air was cold, biting at their cheeks. The sky was gray, the kind of gray that made everything feel heavier. They walked with their bags, not sure where to go. Ethan led them to the library first. It opened at 9. They waited outside, sitting on the steps. Lily hugged her knees. Ethan checked job listings on his phone, the cracked screen catching the weak morning light. When the library opened, they went in like ghosts, quiet and careful. Ethan used a computer to apply to every job he could find: warehouse, delivery, dishwasher, anything. Lily sat beside him and searched cheap rooms for rent until her eyes went glassy. The numbers were impossible. By noon, Ethan's stomach growled again. He bought 2 cheap hot dogs from a gas station with the last of his cash. They ate on the curb behind the building hidden from the road. Lily chewed slowly. I feel like everyone is looking at us. Ethan glanced around. A man pumping gas glanced their way and quickly looked away. A woman walked past them with a coffee cup, her face tight. Not cruel, but cautious, like they were something she didn't want to think about. Ethan said, let them look. Lily whispered, I hate it. Ethan looked at her, and he saw something that scared him more than judgment. He saw shame. He moved closer. Don't do that, he said quietly. Lily blinked. Do what don't let them make you feel small, Ethan said. His voice shook with anger he could not control. We didn't do anything wrong. Lily's eyes filled again, but she nodded. Their routine became a loop. Shelter at night, out in the morning. Library fast food job applications, cheap showers at a community center when they could afford it, long walks to keep warm. Ethan worked at the tire shop during the day and tried to pick up extra hours whenever he could. Lily found a job cleaning tables at a small cafe, her hands cracking from hot water and soap. They never told their coworkers the truth. They said they were between places. They smiled when they had to. They acted normal because the world punished people who looked desperate. At night when Ethan and Lily reunited in the common room before curfew, they would sit close on the couch, shoulders touching, whispering like kids in trouble. One evening, Lily leaned her head against Ethan's arm and said, Do you remember when Mom was alive? Ethan's chest tightened. Their mother had died when Lily was 12. Ethan was 16. After that, the house had changed. Their father had changed. The laughter had gone away like it had been packed in a box and thrown out. Ethan stared ahead. Yeah. Lily's voice was soft. She would never have let this happen. Ethan's eyes stung. I know. Lily's fingers played with the edge of Ethan's sleeve. Do you think Dad hates us? Ethan swallowed hard. He wanted to say no. He wanted to protect Lily from that thought, but his own pain spoke first. I think he cares more about control than us. Lily's breathing became shaky. Ethan turned and hugged her again, feeling her tremble. A man across the room glanced at them and then looked away, but Ethan saw the judgment in that quick movement. Or maybe he just felt it everywhere now. Some days were worse than others. One afternoon, Ethan came out of the tire shop to find Lily sitting on the curb with her face buried in her hands. Her shoulders were shaking. Ethan dropped his bag and knelt. Lily. What happened? Lily looked up. Her cheeks were red. This woman at the cafe. She said I smelled like shelter. She said customers might complain. Ethan felt his vision blur with anger. What did you say? Lily's voice cracked. Nothing. I went to the bathroom and cried. Then my manager told me to go home early. Ethan stared at her, and something dark moved inside him. He wanted to march into that cafe and scream. He wanted to punch a wall. He wanted to drag Lily out of this town and start over. But he did not have money for escape. He only had his hands and his promise. Ethan took a slow breath. Look at me, he said. Lily looked at him. You didn't do anything wrong, Ethan said again. We're doing what we have to do. Lily nodded, wiping her face. I'm tired. Ethan's throat tightened. Me too. That night they sat outside the shelter before curfew because the common room was too loud and crowded. The sun had set and the street lights were coming on one by one like small tired eyes opening. Lily hugged her arms and whispered, I keep thinking, what if we had just obeyed? What if we had said sorry? Ethan stared at the pavement. I said sorry enough growing up. It never changed anything. Lily looked at him. Ethan, are you scared? Ethan let out a short breath. He wanted to say no, but Lily deserved honesty. Yes, he admitted. I'm terrified. Lily's face crumpled for a second, then she reached for his hand. Me too. They sat like that, fingers locked the world moving around them without caring. And then a few days later, something shifted. It started with a walk that was supposed to be nothing. On a Saturday morning, the shelter had told them they couldn't stay inside after breakfast. It was colder than usual, and the library didn't open until later. Ethan suggested they walk to keep warm. They wandered farther than normal past the downtown area, past the neat houses into the industrial edge of town, where warehouses sat like sleeping animals. Lily kicked a pebble along the sidewalk. This place feels like the end of the world. Ethan gave a tired half smile. Maybe that's why it's quiet. They turned onto a road lined with weeds and broken fencing. A chain-link gate hung open like someone had stopped trying to keep people out. Beyond it, on a wide patch of land, sat a long, curved metal building. It looked like a giant rusted half-cylinder dropped from the sky. The metal skin was streaked brown and orange. Some parts were dented. One small window was cracked. A sign on a post leaned sideways, barely readable. Lily slowed. "What is that?" Ethan stared at it, feeling something strange in his chest. Not hope. Not yet. But curiosity. A sense that the world had just pointed at something and said, "Look." He stepped closer, squinting at the leaning sign. The letters were faded, but he could make them out. Quonset hut, property of city, surplus inquire with county office. Lily's voice was quiet. "It's abandoned." Ethan's eyes moved over the rusted metal, the wild grass, the broken fence. The place looked worthless, like a joke, like the kind of thing people pointed at and laughed. But Ethan couldn't stop looking, because in that moment, standing beside his sister with nowhere else to go, he saw something else too. He saw shelter. He saw a space with walls. He saw a door that might close behind them, not to lock them out, but to keep them in. Lily pulled her jacket tighter. "Ethan, why are you staring like that?" Ethan didn't answer right away. His mind was already racing ahead, already asking questions he didn't know how to say out loud. He took one slow step toward the rusted Quonset hut, and the first fragile thought of an impossible idea formed in his head. The county office smelled like paper dust and old coffee. The building itself looked tired, like it had been built decades ago, and then forgotten, just like the Quonset hut. Ethan stood at the counter with Lily beside him. She kept shifting her weight from foot to foot, her eyes darting around the room. Posters about zoning laws and property tax notices covered the walls. None of it felt like it belonged to them. Behind the counter sat a man in his 50s with thinning hair and a stained tie. He typed slowly, pecking at the keyboard, like each letter took effort. Ethan cleared his throat. "Excuse me, we had a question about a property." The man looked up, his eyes moving over Ethan's clothes, then Lily's. His gaze lingered just a second too long on their worn shoes. "Which property?" he asked. "The Quonset hut on Old Rail Road," Ethan said. "The one marked city surplus." The man's eyebrows lifted slightly. He leaned back in his chair. "That thing, yes," Ethan said. The man let out a short laugh, not cruel, but dismissive. Why Ethan felt Lily tense beside him. He could almost hear her thinking, "This is a bad idea." Ethan forced himself to keep his voice steady. "We were wondering if it was for sale." The man shook his head slowly. "It's been sitting there for years. No one wants it." Lily spoke before Ethan could stop her. "Why not?" The man shrugged. "It's an eyesore, full of rust, no plumbing, no electricity, probably full of rats. Costs more to tear down than it's worth." Ethan nodded. "But it is for sale." The man leaned forward again and typed something. "Technically, yeah. City surplus. We tried auctioning it once." "Nobody showed," Lily whispered. "Of course they didn't." The man glanced at her, then back to Ethan. "Look, kid, if you're thinking you can turn that thing into something, don't. You'll just lose money." Ethan felt heat rise in his face. "How much is it?" The man paused, then smiled like he was about to tell a joke. $5. Lily's head snapped toward Ethan. What $5? The man repeated. That's the minimum legal sale price. We just want it off the books. Ethan's heart thumped. $5. He had more than that in loose change in his bag. Lily pulled Ethan's sleeve and whispered urgently, Ethan, no. Ethan leaned closer. Why not? Lily's voice was tight. Because this is stupid. Because it's nothing. Because people like him are laughing at us. Ethan glanced at the man. He was watching them with mild curiosity, like he was bored, and this was slightly entertaining. Ethan turned back to Lily. We need something. Lily shook her head. We need a room, a door that locks, heat. And we don't have money for that, Ethan said quietly. The man cleared his throat. You two done whispering, I've got lunch in 10. Ethan straightened. What's the process? The man blinked. You're serious? Yes. The man stared at him for a moment, then shrugged. Fill out a form. Sign a waiver. You buy it as is. No complaints. No refunds. No city responsibility. Lily grabbed Ethan's arm. Ethan, please. Ethan felt the pull between them, fear on one side, responsibility on the other. He remembered the shelter beds, the cafe woman's comment, Lily crying on the curb. He thought of the Quonset hut again, rusted, broken, empty, but standing. He looked at Lily. I won't force you. Lily's eyes filled. I'm scared, I know, Ethan said softly. The man watched them tapping his pen. Look, kids, I'm not trying to be mean, but you don't look like the type who should be buying junk property. Ethan's jaw tightened. What type is that? The man hesitated. The type with options. The word hit Ethan harder than an insult. Options, something they no longer had. Ethan reached into his bag and pulled out his wallet. He placed it on the counter but did not open it. We'll think about it, he said. The man nodded, already losing interest. Suit yourselves. They walked out of the building in silence. Outside, Lily stopped on the steps. Ethan, that man was right. Ethan turned to her. About what that we don't have options, Lily said, her voice breaking. That's why this scares me. Ethan looked at the street, the cars passing, the people walking by with purpose. Do you think the shelter is an option? Lily flinched. Ethan continued quieter. Do you think sleeping in separate rooms every night wondering if you're safe is an option? Lily wiped her cheeks hard. No. Ethan nodded. Then this might be the only thing we have. Lily wrapped her arms around herself. What if it collapses? What if we get arrested? What if someone laughs at us? Ethan looked at her, and something firm settled inside him. They already laugh. Lily's breath hitched. Ethan stepped closer. Listen to me. That building doesn't care who we are. It doesn't judge us. It's just sitting there empty. Lily stared at him, torn. You really think we could live there? Ethan didn't lie. I think we could try. They walked back toward the shelter. The city felt louder, now harsher. Every person they passed felt like a reminder of how far they had fallen. That evening, Ethan went to his job at the tire shop. He worked until his arms ached, lifting heavy wheels, his mind replaying the image of the Quonset hut again and again. Lily waited outside the shop after her cafe shift, sitting on the curb with her jacket zipped to her chin. When Ethan finished, he sat beside her. We need to talk. Lily nodded slowly. Ethan took a deep breath. I can get some scrap wood from the shop. They throw it out. Lily's eyes widened. You've already decided. Ethan rubbed his hands together. I'm thinking. Lily looked away. I'm afraid we'll look like fools. Ethan's voice was steady. I don't care how we look. Lily swallowed. What if Dad finds out? Ethan stiffened. He doesn't get to decide our life anymore. Lily nodded, but fear still lived in her eyes. That night in the shelter common room, they sat with their heads close together. What if we freeze? Lily whispered. Ethan answered every fear the same way. Then we adapt. What if someone reports us, then we deal with it? What if it's a mistake? Ethan paused at that one. Then it's ours. A man nearby snorted softly, clearly overhearing them. You kids planning a fantasy. Ethan looked up. The man was middle-aged with tired eyes and a mocking smile. Planning to survive, Ethan said. The man laughed. Good luck with that. Lily's face burned with embarrassment. Later, when the lights went out, Ethan lay awake again. He stared at the ceiling and thought about $5. $5 was nothing. $5 was everything. In the morning, Ethan woke with a strange calm. Fear was still there, but something else had joined it. Determination. They went to the county office again. The man at the desk looked surprised. You're back. Ethan nodded. We want to buy it. Lily stood beside him, pale but steady. The man studied them for a long moment. Then he sighed. I'll get the paperwork. He slid the form across the counter. Ethan read it carefully, even though most of it made no sense. Lily leaned in her shoulder, touching his. Sign here, the man said, pointing. Ethan picked up the pen. His hand shook slightly. Lily whispered, Ethan, whatever happens, we face it together. Ethan looked at her and nodded. Together. He signed his name. The man took the form and then looked at Ethan expectantly. Ethan opened his wallet and placed a $5 bill on the counter. The man stared at it, then picked it up like it was strange. Congratulations, he said flatly. You now own a pile of rust. Lily flinched. Ethan didn't. As they walked out, Lily asked quietly, Did we just ruin our lives? Ethan looked ahead toward the street, toward the unknown. Or save them? They did not know which was true, but the decision was made, and there was no turning back. The Quonset hut looked worse up close. As Ethan and Lily walked through the open chain-link gate, the curved metal structure loomed over them like a bent spine. Rust flakes clung to the surface in thick patches, and the smell of old metal and damp earth hung in the air. Lily stopped a few steps in. Oh no. Ethan said nothing. He kept walking, his boots crunching over gravel and broken glass. Up close, the door was just a warped sheet of metal hanging on crooked hinges. Someone had spray-painted a faded tag across it years ago. The small window beside the door was cracked, one corner shattered and taped poorly from the inside. Ethan reached for the handle. Wait, Lily said quickly. Ethan paused. What? Lily swallowed. What if someone's inside? Ethan scanned the area. The weeds around the hut were tall but undisturbed. No footprints, no fresh trash. If someone was living here, we'd see signs, he said. He pulled the door. It screamed. The sound echoed across the empty land, sharp and painful, like the building itself was protesting being touched. Lily jumped back. Sorry, Ethan muttered, though he didn't know who he was apologizing to. The door resisted, then gave way. Cold air spilled out, thick with dust and something sour. Ethan stepped inside first. The interior was darker than he expected. The curved walls arched overhead, the metal ribs exposed like bones. Rust had eaten holes in some places, letting thin lines of daylight stab through. The floor was concrete, cracked and stained. Lily stood in the doorway, frozen. Ethan, this is bad. Ethan's eyes adjusted slowly. He took a few steps and his footsteps echoing loudly. There's no power, Lily said, stating the obvious, like saying it out loud might make it less frightening. No water, Ethan added. And it's freezing, Lily said. Ethan nodded. Yeah. They stood there, two small figures, inside a giant empty shell. Lily hugged herself. People are going to laugh if they see us here. Ethan turned to her. People already laugh. Lily's lips trembled. I know, I just didn't think it would feel like this. Ethan walked back to her and placed a hand on the metal wall. Rust flaked onto his palm. It's not pretty, he said, but it's ours. Lily looked around again. The echo of her breathing made the space feel even bigger. Ours, she repeated, unsure. They explored slowly. In the far corner, there was an old wooden pallet leaning against the wall. A torn tarp lay folded nearby, stiff with dirt. Someone had once tried to store something here long ago. "There's no door lock," Lily said, panic creeping back into her voice. "We can fix that," Ethan said, though he had no idea how. They walked the perimeter together, stepping over debris, avoiding a dark stain in one corner that neither of them wanted to examine too closely. Lily stopped suddenly. "Ethan, this isn't safe." Ethan felt her fear press into him. He wanted to take it away, but he couldn't lie. "It's not safe yet," he said carefully. Lily looked at him, yet Ethan nodded. "Yet." Silence fell again. Then Lily asked the question Ethan had been avoiding. "Are we really sleeping here tonight?" Ethan looked at the door, the warped metal, the wide gaps where cold air slid in. He thought about the shelter, the rules, the separate wings. He thought about the fear in Lily's eyes every night when they had to part. "Yes," he said. Lily closed her eyes. When she opened them again, they were wet but steady. Okay. They did not bring much inside that first day, just their bags. Ethan propped the pallet against the wall and laid the tarp on the floor, brushing off as much dirt as he could. Lily sat on the tarp, hugging her knees. "It smells like old rain." Ethan tried to joke. "Better than old socks." Lily gave a weak smile. As the sun dropped, the inside grew colder. Shadows stretched along the curved walls. Every sound felt louder, the wind outside, a bird calling in the distance, the scrape of metal as the hut cooled. Ethan stepped outside to look around. The land was empty. The road was far enough away that cars passed like distant whispers. He came back in and shut the door as best he could. It didn't close all the way. "We need light," Lily said. Ethan pulled out his phone and turned on the flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness, revealing dust floating in the air. They sat close together on the tarp backs against the cold metal. Lily whispered, "I feel stupid." Ethan shook his head. "You're brave." Lily laughed softly, almost hysterical. "This doesn't feel brave." Ethan leaned his head back against the wall. The cold metal seeped through his jacket. "Brave never feels like the movies." A car drove past on the road, its headlights sweeping briefly across the hut's exterior. Lily flinched. "What if someone sees us?" she asked. Ethan answered honestly, "They probably will." Lily's voice dropped. And then what Ethan met her eyes. "Then we keep going." The first night was long. They barely slept. Every sound made them tense. The wind rattled loose metal. Something scratched outside once, and Lily clutched Ethan's arm so hard it hurt. "I'm here," he whispered. "I'm here." They stayed like that until morning light filtered through the rust holes. When dawn came, the hut looked different. Still ugly, still broken, but not as terrifying. Lily sat up slowly. "We didn't die." Ethan let out a breath that almost sounded like a laugh. "That's a win." They stepped outside and stretched their breath, fogging in the air. A truck passed on the road. The driver slowed and stared, his face twisted in confusion, then something like pity. Lily noticed and dropped her gaze. "See? They think we're crazy." Ethan watched the truck disappear. Let them. They spent the day cleaning. Ethan borrowed gloves from the tire shop and brought them back in his bag. He used a broom he found in a dumpster to sweep out dirt and broken glass. Lily wiped down a small section of wall with water from a bottle, even though it felt pointless. They found an old crate and turned it into a makeshift table. They stacked bricks near the door to block the gap at the bottom. It wasn't much, but it was something. In the afternoon, a man approached the fence. He was older, wearing a clean jacket and carrying a clipboard. Ethan stiffened immediately. "Lily," he murmured. The man called out, "You kids living in there?" Lily froze. Ethan stepped forward. "Yes." The man raised his eyebrows. "That thing's condemned." Ethan's stomach dropped. "We bought it." The man scoffed. You bought junk. Lily's cheeks burned. You can't live there, the man said. It's not zoned. Ethan felt panic claw at his chest. We're not bothering anyone. The man shook his head. Doesn't matter. I'll report it. Lily grabbed Ethan's sleeve, fear flooding back. Ethan! The man walked away without another word. Silence fell heavy between them. Lily whispered, He's going to take it away. Ethan stared at the man's retreating back. His chest felt tight, his heart racing. I won't let them, he said, though he didn't know how. That night as they sat together in the cold, Lily asked quietly, Was this a mistake? Ethan looked at the rusted walls, the dim light, the thin tarp. He thought of the shelter doors closing every night. He thought of Lily sleeping alone, scared. He shook his head. No. But doubt crept in sharp and relentless. Because now it wasn't just about surviving the night. It was about proving that $5 of rust could be more than everyone believed. And no one around them believed at all. Progress did not come in big moments. It came in small, painful steps. The first change was the smell. After days of sweeping, wiping, and dragging trash out to a growing pile near the fence, the air inside the Quonset hut stopped smelling like decay and started smelling like dust and cold metal. It wasn't pleasant, but it was cleaner. Ethan worked before and after his shifts at the tire shop. He scavenged scrap wood, bent nails, and leftover insulation pieces that other workers threw away. Every night he carried them back in his duffel bag, his shoulders aching. Lily worked mornings at the cafe and evenings inside the hut. She organized what little they had, clothes in one corner, food in another. She tried to make order where there was none. One night, as Ethan hammered 2 pieces of wood together to block a rust hole, Lily snapped. You're doing it wrong, she said sharply. Ethan froze. What that board won't hold, Lily said, her voice tight. You're just wasting nails. Ethan felt his temper flare. I'm doing my best, I know, Lily said, tears forming. But your best won't stop the wind? The hammer slipped from Ethan's hand and hit the concrete with a loud crack. He turned away, jaw clenched. I didn't ask for this, Lily said, immediately regretting it. Ethan spun back. You think I did? Silence slammed into them. Lily covered her face. I'm sorry. I'm scared all the time. Ethan's anger drained, leaving exhaustion behind. He sat on the crate, elbows on his knees. Me too. They stayed quiet for a while, breathing in the cold. Then Ethan picked up the hammer again. Show me how you do it. Lily looked up surprised. She walked over and knelt beside him. Angle it, like this. They worked together in silence after that. The second change was warmth. Ethan found a small camping stove at a thrift shop for $3. It was dented but worked. They only used it when the door was cracked open, terrified of fumes. The first time they boiled water, Lily held the cup in both hands and closed her eyes. I forgot how much this matters. Ethan watched her, feeling something loosen in his chest. The third change was light. A co-worker at the tire shop gave Ethan a broken solar garden lamp. Ethan took it apart, cleaned the panel, and mounted it near the cracked window. That night, when it glowed faintly, Lily gasped. Ethan, it's light. It was weak and flickering, but it was theirs. They began to sleep more. Not well, but enough. The nights grew quieter as their fear eased just a little. But not everything moved forward. One morning, Lily didn't get out of bed. Ethan noticed when she missed her cafe shift. He shook her gently. Lily. She opened her eyes but didn't sit up. I can't today. Ethan felt a knot form in his stomach. Are you sick? She shook her head. Just empty. Ethan sat beside her. He wanted to tell her to push through it. He wanted to say they needed the money, but he remembered her crying in the shelter. He remembered the way she shook at night. Okay, he said, rest. Lily stared at him. You're not mad, Ethan shook his head. We take turns being strong. That afternoon, Ethan worked double shifts. He came back late, his hands sore and cracked. Lily had cleaned the floor and organized their food. She looked guilty when he came in. I should have gone. Ethan shook his head. You did work. They shared a cheap meal and sat quietly. As weeks passed, something strange happened. People started noticing. A man from the tire shop drove by one evening and slowed. You really living in that thing? Ethan nodded. The man shook his head. You're nuts. But he came back the next day with a box of old blankets. A woman walking her dog stopped at the fence. Is that legal? Lily swallowed. We bought it. The woman frowned, then sighed. Kids shouldn't have to live like this. She returned later with a bag of canned food. Not everyone was kind. Teenagers drove by and laughed. Someone spray-painted lucers on the outer wall one night. Lily saw it first and froze. Ethan stared at the word, his chest burning. He grabbed a rag and scrubbed until his arms shook. Don't let it stay, he muttered. Don't let it stay. Lily stood beside him, wiping too. They don't know us. One evening as rain hammered the metal roof, Lily curled against Ethan and whispered, I don't feel like I'm falling anymore. Ethan rested his head against the wall. Me neither. The hut still leaked, still rattled, still embarrassed them in daylight, but it was changing, and so were they. One night as they sat under the dim solar light, Lily smiled softly. No one expected this. Ethan looked around at the patch walls, the light, the warmth. Neither did I. Outside, the rain slowed. Inside, for the first time since they were kicked out, the Quonset hut felt less like a mistake and more like the beginning of something no one believed could happen. The first real threat did not come with shouting or sirens. It came with paper. Ethan found the notice taped crookedly to the door one morning. The paper flapped in the wind, the edges damp from fog. He pulled it down and read it once, then again, his stomach tightening with each word. Notice of violation, unauthorized occupancy, subject to removal. Lily stepped out behind him. What is it? Ethan handed her the paper. She read it slowly, her face drained of color. They're going to kick us out. Ethan folded the paper carefully, like if he treated it gently, it might not hurt as much. It says we have 14 days to vacate. Lily's voice shook. We can't. Ethan nodded. I know. They stood there in the cold morning, the Quonset hut behind them, the city reminding them who held the power. At work, Ethan could not focus. A tire slipped from his grip, crashing to the floor. You okay? His supervisor asked. Ethan forced a nod. Yeah, but he wasn't. That evening, Lily paced the hut. We followed the rules. We bought it. We're not bothering anyone. Ethan rubbed his temples. Zoning doesn't care. Lily's voice rose. So what do we do? Just leave. Ethan didn't answer. He was thinking about forms, about rules, about how the world was built to push people like them out quietly. They went to the county office again. The same man with the stained tie barely looked surprised. I told you, he said, not zoned for residential use. But we own it, Lily said, her voice tight. The man shrugged. Ownership doesn't override safety codes. Ethan leaned forward. What would it take? The man paused. You'd need an inspection, permits, upgrades, plumbing, electrical. Lily laughed bitterly. With what money? The man's eyes softened just slightly. I'm sorry. They left with nothing but heavier hearts. That night the pressure broke Lily. She slammed her cup down. This was a lie. This was false hope. Ethan snapped back exhausted. I never promised it would be easy. I never asked for this, Lily shouted. The words echoed in the curved walls. Ethan stared at her, hurt flashing across his face. I know. Silence followed. Then Lily sank to the floor, covering her face. I'm so tired of being strong. Ethan sat beside her and pulled her into his arms. You don't have to be strong right now. She cried hard, her shoulders shaking. The next day, Ethan skipped work. He walked the land around the hut searching for answers. He noticed an old water line capped near the fence. He noticed a rusted electrical pole not far away. An idea formed fragile and risky. He visited a community legal aid office. He waited 3 hours. A young lawyer listened carefully. "You own the structure, but not the land," Ethan nodded. "That helps," she said. "There may be a loophole, temporary occupancy for restoration." Hope flickered. They filed paperwork. They requested time. Days passed with no answer. Then the inspector came. A tall man in a reflective vest walked around the hut, clipboard in hand. He frowned at the rust, the patches, the makeshift fixes. "This isn't a home," he said. "It is to us," Lily replied quietly. The man hesitated, then sighed. "You've got effort here, but effort doesn't equal code." He left without a decision. That night, a man from the county returned. Same clipboard, different tone. "You've got 7 days," he said. Lily's hands trembled. Ethan felt anger boil. "You don't care if we end up on the street." The man looked at him. "This isn't personal." Ethan's voice broke. "It is to us." The man walked away. Later, Lily whispered, "Maybe Dad was right. Maybe we can't do this." Ethan closed his eyes. For a moment, doubt flooded him. Then he thought of every night in the shelter, every insult, every tear. "No," he said firmly. "This is where we stand." They worked harder than ever, reinforcing, cleaning, documenting every improvement. On the last night, they waited, and waited, because the truth of their effort was about to be judged by a system that never expected them to fight back. The call came just after noon. Ethan was outside the Quonset hut, tightening a bolt on the patched door frame, when his phone buzzed. He wiped his hands on his jeans before answering, his heart already pounding. "Hello, this is the county office," a woman's voice said. "Regarding your request for temporary occupancy status." Ethan stopped breathing. Lily stepped closer, watching his face. He raised a finger to her, asking for silence. "Yes," Ethan said. "Yes, we're here." There was a pause. Papers shuffled on the other end. "After review and considering the documented restoration work and safety measures, we are granting a temporary occupancy permit." Ethan's knees went weak. He leaned against the metal wall. For 6 months, the woman continued, with scheduled inspections. "Any violations will result in immediate revocation." Ethan swallowed hard. "Thank you." Lily's eyes were wide. She whispered, "What did she say?" Ethan ended the call and looked at his sister. His voice shook. "We can stay." Lily stared at him, not understanding at first. "Stay. How long?" 6 months, Ethan said. "At least." Lily's hand flew to her mouth. For a second, she didn't move. Then she let out a broken sound that was half laugh, half sob, and threw her arms around him. They held each other in the open air, the rusted hut behind them, the wind carrying their relief away into the empty land. That night they slept deeper than they had in months. The weeks that followed felt different. Not easy, never easy, but steadier. With the permit, Ethan could apply for small grants meant for restoration projects. Most were rejected. One wasn't. It was only $500. But when the email came, Lily screamed so loudly that a man walking his dog stopped and stared. They laughed at that later. With the money, they bought real insulation. A second-hand door with a lock, a small electric heater they only used sparingly. When the inspector returned, he walked slower this time. He asked questions. He nodded at the improvements. "You've done more than most," Woody admitted. Lily stood taller after that. Word spread quietly. A local paper ran a short piece. No photos. Just a few lines about 2 teenagers restoring a surplus structure instead of giving up. People started stopping by. Not crowds, just 1 or 2 at a time. An older man brought wiring scraps. A woman donated paint. Someone left a note taped to the fence that read, "Keep going." Lily taped it inside the hut, smoothing the paper flat. One afternoon, a familiar car pulled up. Lily stiffened instantly. Ethan, that's Dad's truck. Ethan turned, his chest tightening. Their father stepped out slowly. He looked older than Ethan remembered, thinner, unsure. He walked toward the fence and stopped. His eyes moved over the hut that patches the door. "This is where you live?" he asked. Ethan stepped forward, placing himself slightly in front of Lily. "Yes." Their father shook his head. "You could have come home." Lily spoke before Ethan could. Her voice was calm but firm. "We did come home. You told us to leave." Silence stretched. Their father looked at the ground. "I didn't think you'd, do this." Ethan met his gaze. "We didn't either." Their father swallowed. "You look tired." Lily nodded. "We are." Another pause. Then their father said quietly, "Your mother would have been proud." Lily's breath caught. Tears filled her eyes, but she didn't step forward. Their father lingered a moment longer, then turned back to his truck. He left without another word. Lily watched until he was gone. Ethan touched her shoulder. "You okay?" She nodded slowly. "I don't need him to fix this." Ethan felt something settle inside him. Relief. Closure. Maybe both. As winter edged closer, the Quonset hut transformed again. Not into something fancy, into something real. A place with heat, with light, with a door that closed and stayed closed. One evening as snow fell softly outside, Lily sat on the crate table with a notebook. "I want to go back to school." Ethan looked up. "Really?" She nodded. "Part-time. Community college. I think I can." Ethan smiled, tired but proud. "We'll make it work." She smiled back. "We always do." The hut hummed quietly around them, the heater clicking on and off, the wind brushing against the curved walls. It wasn't just shelter anymore. It was proof, and the world slowly was starting to see it. Spring came quietly. It didn't announce itself with anything dramatic. Just softer mornings, less frost on the metal walls, the sound of birds landing on the curved roof instead of wind clawing at it. Ethan noticed it first when he woke up one morning and didn't feel the ache in his bones from the cold. He sat up slowly, listening. The Quonset hut was quiet, safe quiet, the kind that didn't make his heart race. Across the small space, Lily slept on her mattress, curled on her side, one arm tucked under her cheek. Her face was relaxed in a way Ethan hadn't seen in a long time. He stayed still, afraid to break the moment. 6 months ago, this place had been a joke, a punchline, a rusted half circle people pointed at and shook their heads. Now it held their breath, their sleep, their future. Lily woke a few minutes later and blinked at the ceiling. "Is it morning already?" Ethan smiled. "Yeah." She stretched, then smiled back. "I had a normal dream." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "That's new." She laughed softly. "I wasn't running. I wasn't hiding. I was just there." They sat up together, sharing instant oatmeal from chip bowls. The solar light flickered off as daylight took over. After breakfast, Lily grabbed her backpack. "I'm late if I don't leave now." Ethan watched her adjust the strap. First day again. She nodded. First day. Community college wasn't glamorous, but it was real, and it was hers. Ethan walked her to the fence like he always did. She paused, then hugged him tight. "Thank you," she whispered. Ethan frowned. "For what? For not letting me fall," Lily said. Ethan swallowed. "You didn't fall. We didn't." She smiled and headed down the road, her steps lighter than they used to be. Ethan spent the day working. The tire shop was louder now that spring meant more cars, more customers. His hands were still rough. His back still hurt. But when his shift ended, he didn't dread going home. He drove his old car down Old Rail Road, past the weeds, past the open gate. The Quonset hut caught the sunlight, the rust glowing warm instead of dead. Fresh paint covered part of the outer wall, now donated by a neighbor. The word "losers" was long gone. Ethan parked and sat for a moment, just looking. No one expected this. The inspector stopped by later that week. He walked around, checked notes, nodded. "You're good," he said. "Permanent occupancy application looks solid." Ethan's chest tightened. "Really?" The inspector gave a small smile. "You earned it." That night, Ethan told Lily. She dropped her fork. "Permanent." He nodded. "Permanent." Lily laughed, then cried, then laughed again. "We bought a home for $5. Ethan shook his head in disbelief. Nobody believed it. Lily leaned back against the wall, eyes shining. "I didn't either. Not at first. They didn't throw a party. They didn't post anything online. They just sat there, shoulders touching, listening to the quiet hum of the heater and the distant sounds of the road." A few weeks later, Lily brought home a small plant from school. They were giving them away. Ethan raised an eyebrow. "You know nothing about plants," "I know," Lily said, setting it carefully near the window. "But I want to try." They watered it together. It didn't die. Summer followed. The hut stayed cool. The door stayed locked. The walls stayed standing. Ethan saved enough to cut his hours and start night classes. Lily thrived in school. She laughed more. She talked about the future like it was something real, not a threat. Sometimes people still stared when they drove by, but now some slowed down for different reasons. That's the place someone would say, "The kids who fixed it." One evening, as the sun dipped low, Ethan sat outside on a folding chair. Lily joined him, handing him a cold drink. They watched the sky change colors reflected faintly in the curved metal. Lily said quietly, "Do you ever think about that night in the parking lot?" Ethan nodded. "All the time." "I thought we were done," Lily said. "I thought that was the end." Ethan looked at the hut. Turns out it was the start. They sat in silence. A bird landed on the roof, chirped once, and flew away. Ethan stood and opened the door. The inside light came on automatically now. Lily followed him in. Before closing the door, Ethan paused. He looked out at the land, the road, the place where fear had once lived. Then he shut the door gently. The lock clicked. Inside, Lily set the plant near the window. The leaves caught the fading light. 2 siblings, one rusted Quonset hut, $5. In a future no one expected, but they built anyway.